Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
Core TV News, expanding your view.
Good evening and welcome to Core TV Primetime News. I am Frank Omalape. In our major stories tonight, Nigeria's welcomed the outcome of the French-backed summit involving Nigeria and her neighbors, which took place in Paris over the weekend. Also in this program, the All Progressive Congress calls President Goodluck Jonathan a betrayal for failing to visit Chibok in Borno State, where over 200 schoolgirls were abducted by Boko Haram last month. Labour Party candidate in next month's governorship election in Ekiti State, Okpeyemi Bamidele, denies widespread rumor that he has pulled out of the race. Outside Nigeria was flooded more than a century aftermath. Record rainfall claims over 44 lives, leaves thousands homeless in Serbia and Bosnia. Thank you for joining us again. The details. Nigeria and its neighbors have vowed to join forces against Boko Haram under an accord described as a declaration of war, and the militants holding more than 200 schoolgirls. Meeting in Paris, Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan and his counterparts from Benin, Chad, Cameroon and Niger approved an action plan to counter Boko Haram. The action plan will involve coordination of surveillance efforts, the sharing of intelligence and joint effort to secure the porous borders in the region, according to the summit's conclusions. The countries also agreed to push for UN sanctions against the leaders of Boko Haram and another group, Ansaro. Some Nigerians hailed the meeting, saying they are exceptionally glad that Cameroon is on board.
What are we demanding? Bring back our girls now and alive. I'm happy about the meeting that they have just finished in France, because this meeting, which involved the neighboring country, Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and Benin Republic, will help to track wherever these girls are taken to. Because if these girls are truly, as they said, that some are taken to this country, the forces in the country where they're taken to, we have to fish them out.
We expect to see the international community engaging in discussing the issues of our borders. We note that there is a concern within the Cameroon and Chad borders. We note that Boko Haram has operated within the Cameroon borders, and we have seen consistently that there has not been tremendous support from Cameroon in terms of curbing the insurgency. So we believe this meeting would provide a breakthrough in that regard.
We need that sub-regional cooperation. It's a global situation that we have. One country can no longer do it alone, intelligence-wise, in terms of expertise, in terms of the numbers of people who are right there in the front line, joint task forces that can counter the work of the menace of the terrorists. This is so important, and I would consider that when we actually see results, we would know that the conversation in Paris actually yielded effort.
A Sentinel reconnaissance aircraft from the British Royal Air Force has flown to support the international search for more than 200 kidnapped schoolgirls missing in Nigeria. The aircraft is equipped with a suite of intelligence gathering and surveillance equipment. The state-of-the-art surveillance jet will operate from Accra in Ghana and will join United States aircraft in attempting to locate the girls seized from their school dormitory in Chibok. There have been positive reactions to the willingness of the international community's involvement in ending the terror unleashed by Boko Haram in the northeast.
Well, the Sentinel's a highly capable and adaptable platform. It's been proven in many theatres so far since 2008. And like many in the public who've seen what's happened in Nigeria, we find it abhorrent. So if we can go and help find those children and return to the parents, then for us it's a good job.
The call for foreign assistance and the fight against terrorism has been described as a discretion to any move made by the federal government. A professor of Acts, Bruce Onabrakpeya, made this disclosure in an interview with Tomi Ojo. Her report is presented from our studio.
The incessant terror attacks in Nigeria became a source of worry when 200 girls from Government Girls Secondary School, Chibok, were abducted by Boko Haram. Worldwide outcry followed the incidents, which resulted into Nigeria accepting military offers from foreign countries. A renowned professor of arts, Bruce Onabrakpeya, says the acceptance of foreign help is a step in the right direction.
I hold what Wole Soyinka said. The issue is now bigger than the government, and the call for international help is in the right place. The international should come in to help us to solve our problem.
According to the arts professor, Nigeria deserves such assistance because the nation had helped other countries in the past.
What we want is that the kind of challenge we have in the country, they should help us through, because we ourselves, we've gone to other countries to help them before. We've gone to Congo, we've gone to Liberia, we've gone to Sierra Leone, we've gone to other places to help in fight international wars, fight international issues, and help those places. Now we need this help.
He admonished that Nigerians should be optimistic about the success of 2015 general elections.
I am always very optimistic. I look at the better side of things. I have a sincere belief that the 2015 election is going to come out right, and this country is going to have a democratically elected president, and we as a giant of Africa, we're going to remain as giant of Africa. There's going to be peace here and prosperity for everybody.
The foreign assistance offered by the US, UK, and French government will no doubt boost the search and rescue operations.
Meanwhile, the All Progressive Congress says by failing to visit Chibok, where over 200 schoolgirls were abducted by Boko Haram last month, President Goodluck Jonathan has betrayed Nigerians who voted him into office. The party says the cancellation of the alleged planned presidential visit to Chibok was indicative of the Jonathan administration policy flip-flop and the fight against Boko Haram. In a statement in Lagos by its interim National Publicity Secretary, Lai Mohammed, APC says the Jonathan administration has bungled the fight against this sect and exhibited cluelessness in handling the abduction of the schoolgirls. The party explains that the president, with his utterances and actions or inaction, has deepened the pains of the parents and guardians of the girls, and indeed that of the whole nation, when he should have been the consoler-in-chief at such a difficult time for a nation he leads. IPC accused Jonathan's administration of lying to Nigerians by saying the president never planned to visit Chibok. Meanwhile, a security expert, Femi Adegbulu, has challenged the president for underutilizing his power as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces in tackling the current state of insecurity in the nation. Adegbulu says there will be nothing like elections in 2015. It's something urgent. It's not done to salvage the country from the blood-sucking Boko Haram set.
There is not 2015. Who are the electoral officers who are going to mount, who are going to campaign or say anything about election when the state of war persists? Can anybody sensible now go to Borno, Adamawa, Yobe and say, look, I want you to vote for me or vote for this party? It's just practically impossible.
He also advised the government to quit attributing a larger-than-life status to Boko Haram and concentrate on intelligence gathering to expose supporters of the sect in government and bring
Before
the terrorists
he says that there are Boko Haram elements among his cabinet, he knows what he's talking about. Having arrived at that conclusion, for instance, he would have been able to get one or two evidence against such. And that evidence will now lead to the next step of trying to bug them, to infiltrate their rank, knowing their thinking, knowing their plan, knowing the step they take, knowing their communication and with whom. So then you now establish that these are really working for my enemies. Then you know what to do to them.
Adebolu added the nation can only experience peace if political ambitions are put aside to effectively fight terrorism. Now, we wait from that now. Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party, Tony Anene, says those calling for the resignation of President Goodluck Jonathan on account of the Boko Haram insurgency are unpatriotic. Anene says the president is doing his best to deal with the situation. His focus on ensuring the safe release of the abducted schoolgirls. The PDP BOT chairman made this known in a statement issued in Abuja and entitled, "Let us unite against Boko Haram." According to him, it was time for all Nigerians, irrespective of regional, religious or political affiliations, to unite behind the president in the fight against Boko Haram. He appealed to opposition politicians to learn from the Westgate shopping mall killings in Kenya, where the opposition leader Raila Odinga stood by President Uhuru Kenyatta while the latter was addressing Kenyans on the dastardly attack. And then he also recalled Americans and the British close ranks and rallied support for their respective governments in the aftermath of Al-Qaeda deadly attacks on their nations, pointing out that in none of these cases did the citizen call on their president or prime minister to resign. While the Borno State government has donated a sum of 10 million naira to victims of last week's Boko Haram attack in Lemankara village of Goza local government area of the state, represented by the Commissioner for Commerce and Investment, Asabe Vilita, Governor says he is deeply touched by the incident. Vilita presented assorted foodstuff as her personal donation to the victims of the attacks. Receiving the donation, Babalawan, the district head of the community, thanked the government for the gesture and pledged to be fair in the distribution of the money. Lawan says that about 80% of the houses in the community were burnt by the insurgents in addition to some places of worship. He appealed to the government to beef up security in the area to enable residents who fled to neighboring communities in Adamawa to return home. The district head also appealed for the reconstruction of the damaged bridge linking Borno and Adamawa. The bridge was blown off by the suspected insurgents. You're watching Core TV Primetime News. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with the rest of the story. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ghana. Please remain seated and ensure your seatbelts are fastened. You can now turn on your MTN mobile phone data to enjoy a browsing rate of 5 kobo per kilobyte with MTN One World. Thank you.
Absolutely. Browse like home with MTN One World. Surfing the web from any MTN operating country costs the same like home. Enjoy affordable rates when you call and send text messages. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN. Everywhere you go.
The global competitive map is changing with the rapid advancement of Africa. If you're not speaking to Africa this time, perhaps you're not speaking at all. Join the continent's leading public relations practitioners at the 26th edition of the All-African Public Relations Association Conference, APRA Mauritius 2014.
Venue, Le Méridien Hotel, Point Oxpiment, Mauritius. Date,
27th to 31st May 2014. Theme, Advancing Africa. For further details, visit www.afapr.org. Africa, it's time to find your goals. Supported by
this One Wash Challenge, you test Ariel to see if it removes stains in one wash. Let the challenge begin. First, chocolate and juice. We will wash shirts with Ariel. Look, Ariel has cleaned in just one wash. So which detergent removes stains in one wash? Ariel, P&G Everyday Quality Brand.
Every day, every hour, every minute, news break in Nigeria. things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digi360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
You're still watching Core TV Primetime News. For more information on our news and other programs, you can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Core TV News. You can also follow us on Twitter at Core TV News NG. And also on YouTube, www.youtube.com/Core TV Space News. Labour Party chieftains in Ogun State have advised the federal government not to negotiate with a militant group called Boko Haram, even as the former governor of the state, Gbenga Daniel, calls for negotiation as a way of ending the insurgency. Our political correspondent Olajumake Olantoji has details in this report.
Chieftains of the Labour Party said the party has united the people towards good governance. They also urged the federal government not to negotiate with Boko Haram.
No, we should not negotiate without, releasing their irresponsible elements who have killed, who have maimed, for our guests to be released. No, that should not be done. Any responsible government will not do that.
No compromise for the exchange of the girls. No compromise. They can look into other areas, but for that swap.
Negotiation, if that will bring out the guests, why not? But in going into negotiation, the federal government should be very, very tactful to ensure that such negotiation did not ultimately promote terrorism.
The abduction itself is illegal. So for somebody to have the God to now say that, we want to do an exchange for what is clearly an illegality, I think it's wrong. My take is that the government and all the international community that is participating in this should use all the means possible to identify where these girls are and secure their release.
But the former governor of Ogun and leader of the party, Gbenga Daniel, holds a different opinion.
When somebody is holding human being, you have to continue to negotiate. Because when you are dealing with people who are like crazy, you don't tempt them. I recommend very strongly that the federal government should continue to negotiate.
Strategizing for the 2015 general elections, the party leaders say they have the capacity to win the governorship of Ogun State. State leader of the party says the quality of leaders in the party is an added advantage that will ensure it triumphs in the forthcoming elections.
The only way to avert crisis in our country is for us to begin to adopt the ideology of the Labour Party, which is basically to look at the masses of the people first and foremost, before looking at the welfare of the few noble rich. And that is why today I am recommending Labour Party more than any party in Nigeria today, at least at the state level.
The party leaders have promised the people of Ogun State a good leadership, putting forward this reconciliation rally as a proof. Olajumake Olatunji, Core TV News, Abeokuta.
Ahead of the 2015 general elections, a former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, has cautioned Nigerian politicians against overheating the polity. The former military ruler, speaking against the background of the insecurity in the land, noted that overheating the polity would only lead to chaos and anarchy in the land. He also urged politicians to play the game according to the rule and accept defeat whenever the need arose. Babangida, in a message at a book launch entitled Fasting According to Islamic Law, authored by the Director General of the National Teachers Institute, Aminu Sharehu, held in Kaduna, stressed the need for politicians to accept defeat at polls and learn to prepare for another. The former military ruler's message was delivered by a former director of the nation's Directorate of Military Intelligence, Dan Soho Mohammed, under Babangida administration. Ahead of the June 21 governorship election in Ekiti State, Labour Party flag bearer Okpeyemi Bamidele says he is still contesting the election. He says that he was not considering stepping down for any other contender in the poll. Bamidele says no amount of intimidation and attack will make him succumb to the wishes of those who he claims are seeing him as a threat. He says those spreading the information that he was no longer in the race were only jittery over his rising political profile. Bamidele also added that he has no working arrangement with any candidate. He also called on his supporters across the state to disregard such speculation, saying they were false and diversionary. Still on Ekiti State, the Labour Party has promised the people of Ekiti an all-inclusive government, promising it will engage all sectors of the economy in the state. Labour Party candidate Okpeyemi Bamidele made the statement at the party's campaign rally in Ekiti's southwest local government area. Ekiti State correspondent Rashid was there and filed in this report.
Political campaigns in Ekiti are focused on the rural areas lately in a bid to convince the people of Igbara Odo. Labour Party candidate Okpeyemi Bamidele says traditional institutions will be given their place of pride if elected.
Our traditional rulers will be relevant in the scheme of things in this state. They will be relevant in the scheme of governance. There is no way we can run an inclusive government without really relating with our traditional rulers. And that's why I'm trying to again reassure you that they will matter and their opinions will matter to us.
Bamidele says the party have plans to integrate the rural areas into the developmental strategies it has articulated.
Most of the people who are educated, they are knowledgeable, they know what they want. That's why we have to extend all developmental projects and infrastructure development to all the villages and rural areas. Because that is where the money, the wealth, the economy of the state is.
The focus of this rally has been a better life and an all-inclusive government if voted to power.
We will run a government that will be all-inclusive. We will run a government that will take into cognizance the views and the positions of stakeholders in the implementation of our policies and programs.
Whenever you are in Ekiti, you enjoy what people in the city are enjoying. That is the joy of even being in the rural area. You have your peace and you have enjoyed the basic amenities of life. We are going to do it, and our government will be a model. You will be surprised.
Rural communities and farm settlements are said to turn out large amounts of votes in elections. Governorship candidates have been campaigning in these rural communities.
Barely 34 days to the governorship election in Ekiti State, wives of the two major governorship candidates, Kayode Fayemi of the All Progressive Congress and Ayo Fayoshi of the People's Democratic Party, have begun combing villages and hamlets in search of votes for their husbands. Bisi Fayemi and Feishiton Fayoshi are campaigning to woo voters in the rural areas instead of restricting themselves to local government headquarters. According to their itineraries, the two women's campaigns will also afford them the opportunities of meeting with the women groups and cooperative societies at the grassroots. Mrs. Fayoshi kick-started her own campaign in Ikole and Ijeru local government areas, explaining that the exercise is part of her contributions toward the electoral victory of her husband. Similarly, Mrs. Fayemi said to the rural women that they would be in pro-welfare if they elect her husband on June 21. She's also billed to begin another round of campaigns to major markets in the various towns. And now the world could be set to be answering the call of the Ekiti State Governor. The Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Abubakar, has ordered the deployment of more policemen to the state ahead of the June 21 governorship election. Ekiti State correspondent Rashid has details in this report from our studios.
There has been several calls for the deployment of more policemen to Ekiti State recently, resulting from the several incidences of clashes and violence erupting from political campaigns and gatherings. Ekiti State Commissioner of Police has been one of the advocates for more policemen.
For the election, it suffices to say that I've gotten all assurance from the Inspector General of Police and his management team that are going to give us maximum assistance and cooperation to enable us to accomplish our objective. To that extent, we're expecting there will be men and materials supplied to us by Abuja.
Uyana promised to collaborate with all relevant agencies for the success of the June 21st election. He, however, admonished all politicians and political parties to play according to the rules of the game.
We'll continue to collaborate with other security agencies, including INEC, to ensure that we give everybody a level playing ground. Our duty is to ensure the security of the electoral process, while INEC, which is the election management body, is to guarantee the integrity of the electoral process.
The police have expressed its readiness to ensure that the election in Ekiti is peaceful. The police also engage in sporting activities, beating all other football teams in Ekiti to qualify for a place at the top-flight National League.
Some prominent lawyers have endorsed the proposal by the ongoing National Conference for Nigeria to operate a part-time unicameral legislature. They say that the suggestion, if approved, will reduce the cost of governance drastically and foster economic growth and development in the country. A unicameral legislature is a representative form of government with a single legislative chamber. Nigeria currently operates a bicameral legislature with the Senate and the House of Representatives, which constitute the National Assembly. The National Conference delegate Mike Ozekome said the current system is a waste of funds and a duplication of efforts and roles. He advised that those insisting on continuing with a bicameral legislature should concede to sitting on part-time basis with allowances only. A former chairman of Ikeja branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, Onyekachi Obani, says that ordinary Nigerians had not benefited from the current bicameral system. He says the huge resources being spent by the country for servicing members of the National Assembly could be used for the provision of infrastructure for the benefit of citizenry. And now, Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola says his government will not tolerate any act that will derail the ongoing environmental regeneration in the state. Fashola reiterated his position while inspecting the reclamation of Igomu and Ijorabadia environment. Abiola Olowale's reports from our studios.
Inspection started at the Igomu Canal and the Igomu Under Bridge reclaimed by the state government. Governor Fashola also inspected Badia community and admonished residents to maintain a clean environment. The governor asks them to desist from dumping refuse in the drainage.
I continue to ask myself deeply, do people really want a cleaner environment? Because when we clean drainages, we build drainages, and when you come back to them, what you see there are human waste, food, trash in drainages, and the same people come back when it rains to say that they were flooded.
While telling some illegal squatters under the Igomu Bridge to look for a better place to reside, Fashola stumbles on Nuruddin Azan from Katsina, whose dream of living in Lagos has become a nightmare. He says he needs 30,000 naira to go back home and reunite with his family.
Don't stay here again. Maybe go look after your wife. Check out your wife and your children.
Lagos has previously been associated with indiscriminate dumping of refuse, but recent efforts by the state government has helped to clean up Nigeria's business hub.
We'll take a short break now. The news return just in a moment. Please join us again.
The global competitive map is changing with the rapid advancement of Africa. If you're not speaking to Africa this time, perhaps you're not speaking at all. Join the continent's leading public relations practitioners at the 26th edition of the All-African Public Relations Association Conference, APRA Mauritius 2014.
Venue, Le Méridien Hotel, Point aux Piments, Mauritius. Date,
27th to 31st May 2014. Theme, Advancing Africa. For further details, visit www.afapr.org. Africa, it's time to find your voice. Supported by
this one wash challenge will test Ariel to see if it removes stains in one wash. Let the challenge begin. First, chocolate and juice. We will wash shirts with Ariel. Look, Ariel has cleaned in just one wash. So which detergent removes stains in one wash? Ariel, P&G Everyday Quality brand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ghana. Please remain seated and ensure your seatbelts are fastened. You can now turn on your MTN mobile phone data to enjoy a browsing rate of 5 kobo per kilobyte with MTN One World. Thank you.
Absolutely. Browse like home with MTN One World. Surfing the web from any MTN operating country costs the same like home. Enjoy affordable rates when you call and send text messages. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Nigerians continue to
Tonight, the city of Lagos waits at the dark as all routes.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV.
A 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back on Core TV Primetime News. For more information on our news and other programs, visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Core TV News. You can also follow us on Twitter at Core TV News NG, and also on YouTube, www.youtube.com/Core TV Space News. Outside Nigeria now, thousands of people cram into boats and army trucks fleeing their homes in Serbia and Bosnia after record rainfall turned the Sava River into a deadly torrent, causing worst flood in more than a century. According to officials in both countries, the disaster has killed at least 44 people. Some towns have been completely cut off, and rescue teams feared the worst as improving weather did not allow them to move in. Some 10,000 people have been evacuated so far from the worst affected areas of northern Bosnia. In the town of Samak, hundreds of stranded residents were waiting to be rescued. This is the worst rainfall since records began in the late 19th century. It has caused landslides that brought more destruction and also prompted a landmine warning. 20 of the 27 deaths recorded in Bosnia occurred in Doboj, while on the side of the Sava River in Serbia, at least 16 bodies were found. In the Serbian capital of Belgrade, dozens of schools and sports centers were turned into shelters for the thousands of evacuees who fled the disaster zone by boats, buses, and helicopters. Swiss voters are to decide in a referendum whether to bring in the world's highest minimum wage, offering each and every worker at least $25 an hour. Supporters say the move is justified by sky-high living costs in the airplane nation, but surveys that the minimum wage is so high that it could pass for a mid-management salary elsewhere. The Swiss will also be voting on a multi-billion-dollar deal to buy fighter jets from Sweden and are almost certain to back measures to ban pedophiles from working with children. The unions behind the decent salary initiative insist that at least 22 Swiss francs an hour or 4,000 francs a month is needed to survive in Switzerland, one of the world's most expensive countries. If the voters agree, the small nation will go from having no minimum wage to boast of the world's highest, far above the United States. Opponents have warned that a minimum wage, and especially such a high one, would deal a death blow to many businesses and weaken Switzerland's healthy economy. Supporters say higher basic wages will boost the purchasing power of some 330,000 people, 1 in every 10 employees in the country. Well, and that's been our package tonight on Core TV Primetime News. Many thanks for watching. I am Frank Omalape. Do have a very wonderful weekend. Bye for now.